Hello everyone, hope you're having a fine day. This is Madhavarajan talking with you, and this video I'm going to give an attempt, right, in giving just a plain summary of The Boy Comes Home, a comic one-act play written by A. Milne. And let me start with a word of caution, right? All I'm going to do is I'm just going to give a summary of this one-act play. Since these are my initial YouTube publications, I wish to restrict myself. Okay, maybe I should learn a lot, maybe in the forthcoming days. And don't expect a lot of stuff from me. I'm just going to give a plain summary of this one-act play called A Boy Comes Home. Right, the playwright is A. Milne. Now, this play, right, is basically, let me introduce it. Right, this play is basically based on the theme generation gap. Right, generation gap is quite prevalent in all ages. Like whatever we are going to come across, okay, there is always trouble with elders and juniors, youngsters. Right, the elders never understand the ethos, right, or the lifestyle of these youngsters, youth, and vice versa. Youth never try to understand the elders' way of living, right? Whatever communication they have, though they both live in same sort of a place or world, there is always a lot of, right, a gap between them, and this leads to a lot of misunderstandings, right, fights and whatnot. Right, people yell over at each other, people complain each other. Now, this is one such play wherein, okay, we have this main character called Philip. All right, he comes home from a service of 4 years in army. Right, he has had some army training, and he had been with army for past 4 years. So this guy, okay, an youngster, he comes home. Right, home means, okay, he is going to join with his uncle James. He's going to stay with them, and his uncle James's wife is Aunt Emily. So he is staying with them. Actually, he does not have parents, and they are their guardians, Uncle James and Aunt Emily. And this is how the drama opens. As the curtain opens, we see Philip seated in a room. Right, must be a dining hall kind of a place or a hall, right? And he is asking, right? He calls for Mary, right? Mary, who is Mary? Where is Mary? Like it's over here, right? He is calling Mary, and she is a servant maid. He calls her and he orders, like, Mary, like, I want some breakfast. And he actually wakes up very late that morning by 10 o'clock because he's been tired, okay, working with army, and he would have been woken up every day by 4 a.m. And this is one chance for him, okay, to get up a little late. So he comes to dining and he calls Mary and he orders, Mary, can you bring me some breakfast? And Mary is actually been exclaimed, okay, all she gives is an exclamation mark. Right, because she is afraid of one woman, okay, called Mrs. Higgins. He calls her name, and she says, Mary actually says, okay, I do not know what Mrs. Higgins would say. And who is Mrs. Higgins? Okay, she is the cook. And Philip is a bit confused. Okay, what's wrong? Okay, what would Miss Higgins say at all? Right, all I want is some hamburger and some coffee and an egg. So why don't you go, Mary, ask Mrs. Higgins. And Mary, reluctantly, she leaves the hall and she goes to kitchen. And later, Aunt Emily gets into the stage. And Philip again says her that he has asked Mary, right, for some breakfast. And Aunt Emily is also giving a same kind of a startled reaction. Aunt Emily says that I do not know what Mrs. Higgins would say. This is again, okay, quite disturbing Philip. Right? Why does everybody say that I do not know what Mrs. Higgins would say? Let us hear what she would say. Right? This is what Philip says, right, innocently. And Mary is also coming in, and she says, okay, Mrs. Higgins is very strict with the orders, right, the table manners and the orders, that breakfast closes by 8 sharp in the morning, and there is no breakfast served by 10 o'clock. And she is not willing to cook breakfast for Philip. And this is actually a threat to Aunt Emily and Mary, because they won't get a better cook than Mrs. Higgins. And actually, Emily, is a bit more now feeling embarrassed, and she even says, okay, Philip, why don't I go and cook? But Philip's okay. He says, okay, please call Mrs. Higgins. I want to talk with her. I want to know what she says, right? That's what he says. And Mrs. Higgins is coming inside, and she says, okay, actually, we don't cook by 10 o'clock, and the dining table is closed, and I cannot do any work. If at all you insist me to do, I'm going to resign my job. This is what Mrs. Higgins, right, says before Philip. And Philip, okay, he immediately takes his checkbook and says, okay, leave now, right, immediately. I don't want your service, right? After all, a cook must be cooking whenever we ask for, and she should not giving orders, right? And Philip says, okay, what's your salary? Let me write down in the check, and I'll give it to you, right? You can leave immediately. And this actually frightens Mrs. Higgins. She's actually taken aback by this reaction given by Philip. So what she says is, okay, you need not do that. Okay, I've reconsidered my decision. I'm going to stay with you. What do you want, sir? She asks. And Philip orders, okay, I need a hamburger, I need an egg, okay, and if possible, a coffee. Right? And she agrees with that, and she goes, right? And these two women, okay, Mary and Aunt Emily, are startled and shocked, okay. They have never seen Mrs. Higgins, okay, succumbing to such threats. Usually, she used to be the threat, but this is a different situation where Philip is threatening, and she has surrendered, right? And they are awestruck. Philip, okay, he then moves into kitchen, right, to further threaten Mrs. Higgins. Aunt Emily leaves the hall, and Mary goes for her work, and Uncle James is coming into stage, all right? And Aunt Emily warns Uncle James, okay, hello, my dear husband, try to be careful with this guy, Philip. He is no more a boy, but he is an adult, right? He has become a youth, and his manners have changed, right? So be careful when you talk with him, right? Never ever be bossy with him. That's what she says. And Uncle James, okay, does not give it much an ear, right, to Mrs. Emily. She leaves the hall, and Uncle James, he is coming, and he sits himself in a sofa. He starts reading a paper, and besides him there is a hearth, okay, it's quite a chimney, right? It's quite warm over there, and it's quite a normal thing. Like when you read something, you fall asleep, and Uncle James exactly does that. He falls asleep, and Uncle James, okay, has a dream, right? Till now, okay, I have done this issue with the breakfast, okay, I did not use my board at all. Now Uncle James arrives, and he is reading the newspaper, and what happens is he falls into a nice dream, all right? And in the dream, what's happening, right? First is Philip is coming into the hall, and he lights a pipe, and he starts smoking. Uncle James is actually offended. Right? How can a small boy, okay, he can smoke before me? So Uncle James says, okay, smoking is banned in this house, right? Though it's injurious, Uncle James says that, okay, it is banned in the house. You should not smoke. And Philip, right, he says, okay, no, uncle, I can't do that, all right? Let me have a puff. So and next, Uncle James says, okay, why don't you join me in my jam business? And Phillips once again, okay, he again disagrees with Uncle James, and he says, okay, no, uncle, I cannot, okay. So because I have my own aspirations, right? And my aspiration is I want to do, right, something called, I want to become an architect. I want to study architecture. And that's my 7 years itch, right? I have been thinking of it for a very long time. So I want to become an architecture, right? And Uncle James says, no, okay, how can you do that? It's a family business, and you have to be getting into jam business, and you have to save our family. And Philip says, no, uncle, okay, but they talk, and their altercation goes on, right? And all on a sudden, Philip, okay, he takes a revolver, a gun, right, out of his pocket and says, okay, I have shot many Germans in the war with this revolver, and should I use it at home? Right, he is asking in a threatening way. And Uncle James, okay, he is actually getting afraid and he sweats a lot, and he says, okay, Philip, you should not do this with your uncle. And Philip says, okay, I should do, okay, if at all you insist me to, right, go on with my, go against my aspiration and dreams. So Uncle James is really now frightened. And later, Philip also, okay, takes a bomb from his pocket and says he threatens more. Right, why don't you drop it now, so that everyone dies? And all of a sudden, boom goes. Right, and what happens? Uncle James, okay, he actually wakes up from the dream. Right, what we had seen is a dream sequence. Right, and he wakes up and he comes to the present. Actually, Philip is having his breakfast and he is coming into the room, and Uncle James, okay, he visualizes Philip as he visualized in the dream. Philip comes into the room and Uncle wakes up, and Philip actually, he smokes, right? And Uncle James is really frightened. Aha, the same thing is happening. Same dream has been repeated in reality, and I can't do that, right? But he does not say Philip to stop smoking, but he allows him to buy. All right. Then Uncle James, okay, to be on a safer side, he asks Philip, right, Philip, what's your plan for future? And Philip says, okay, like Uncle James expects that, okay, he's going to do some architecture and things. But Philip says, okay, Uncle, like I'm really fed up with this military life. I want to relax in my life and for the rest of my life. So all I wish to do is, okay, join you with the jam business and let us continue with our business. And Uncle James says, okay, like when do you wish to join? And Philip says, right today, right after bath, okay, I've eaten, let me take a bath, and I'll come to company today, and let us do business. And Philip also apologizes, right? Uncle, I'm really sorry. Like today I woke up late, and from tomorrow onwards, I'll have my breakfast at the appointed time. And Uncle James is really relieved. But later on, Philip actually, he takes his revolver once again. Right? He takes his revolver, and Uncle James is once again threatened. Aha! Now what's that? Right? And Philip says that, Uncle, I want to sell this revolver. Whatever happened with my military life, okay, it should be coming to an end. So I'm no more interested in this revolver or gun. I want to sell it. Right? And Uncle James is much more happier, and he is relieved, and he laughs and laughs for no reason. Right? He simply smiles, and he feels himself to be very awkward. Right? Caught between dream and reality. Right? Yet this youngster Philip, right, he has accepted, right, his life with Uncle James, and he is also going to do jam business, and everybody is relieved at the end, and the play has a happy ending. Hope my YouTube video is also having a happy ending. Hope I have reached to you. Thank you so much. Meet you soon with some other topics. Thank you so much.